when elected leadership want votes from everyone, they need to go out to every part of, of the sort of constituency or the various constituencies and ask, what do you all need and what can I do to get your vote? That happens at the local level. It was just last year that I ran for trustee, and we have folks that Harvard's trying to carve out of our local. And when we don't go speak to them and we don't find out what they need and show, them how important it is, then we don't get their vote. And so that's going to happen at the international level, obviously, if you actually have direct votes. So they're going to have to go out to folks from every local and every sector and figure it out. I think transparency, runs a similar way, which is that when you make, transparency is both real and perceived. And when people get the impression that something is being hidden from them, that starts making them antsy and that starts making them distrustful. And then, if they have a chance to vote you out, that's something that's much more likely to happen if they don't trust you. But at the local level, I think there's just things that, as Dan was saying, like there's a lot that goes on in negotiations at other locals that have, that are sort of more entrenched in the UAW's sort of like old school style, which I think is unfortunately much less transparent. And we've started making some of those changes at our local level, but we still have a long ways to go. We don't have like regular open bargaining, but we've had in our last negotiations, we had some open bargaining sessions, which allowed rank and file members to come in and see what that was like and see our bargaining committee at the table. Which one of the things that most activated me some years back was going to one of those sessions and really seeing what that was like and seeing the games that were being played by Harvard. But you can also see if anything's happening from your bargaining committee that you don't trust. Then I think a final thing that I'm excited about, but is very hard to implement, of course, is really giving people access to strategy when you're setting up a campaign for a new contract, when you're planning strike action, potentially actually having strategy sessions where rank and file can come and actually engage in that and even potentially vote on options. It's very hard. There's a lot of moving parts. It doesn't always work. And democratic processes like that are messy, but I think it would be exciting to see locals start doing that and then the international to start doing that, as well.
Thank you, Andrew. The aspect of open bargaining is something that's really foreign to many members of the UAW, especially in the industrial sectors. It's really exciting to see the grad student sector engaging in open bargaining and what that entails. And it's just exciting for folks that have for decades been forced to wait on the sidelines until the international tells us what we're getting. So, one thing about democracy, it requires the information, the informed votes of the members involved. So, and that's where transparency becomes imperative, because democracy without transparency is really just a popularity contest. We want to get away from popularity contests and actually know what's going on inside our union so that we can make informed decisions.
Some of those things that we touched on earlier with the evils of this appointment system, when it's my sons and daughters and the cronyism, nepotism, right? My friend, my sycophant, they're going to go along to get along. They are not going to speak up. So in our health and safety aspects, at least in manufacturing, maybe a little different in academia, but in the health and safety aspect, it's you see something, you say something. It's imperative, right? So that we can get a fix to that problem, so somebody doesn't die or lose a limb on the job. You see something, you say something. That's been missing in the international. So you definitely need some brave folks. They would be ostracized. They would probably lose their international positions, and they would have to go to court and sue. And I haven't seen a whole lot of people with backbone. And it comes back to because they have not really been elected. It's been that kangaroo kind of a banana republic thing they roll out every 4 years at our convention, right? Saying it's an election when it's not. We all know that. Again, the proof is in the pudding with this one party rule for 50 years. It's This is going to help to break that. And when you get some opposition folks in positions in the international, they will speak up. They won't be, their livelihood and job won't be beholden to the one person, right? So it'll be some varying opinions coming out, some different points of view. It'll be refreshing. It'll be healthy. It'll be good for our democracy. It'll be good for our union. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and money in politics is horrific. So the more money there is to be made, the more incentive there is for people to shut up and go along. So I think we can get to those root cause issues. Again, it's going to take constitutional amendments, well-written resolutions, and then building that groundswell so we can get it done in this convention coming up. And I do look forward to it. I think this convention is going to be raucous, it'll be lively, and it'll be long overdue with some healthy debate on the floor. And then the one last piece I will always leave you with in elections is it's a secret ballot election. It's disgusting the way that we have to conduct this with roll call votes. Stand up, take your microphone in front of the panel, the intimidating panel of your president and your IEB. They're pretty much staring you down and say, vote against me so I can close your plant and shut down your local. Go ahead. You know what I mean? It's unsaid, but that's the intimidation and coercion factor. We definitely need a secret ballot election. We demand those type of things in our regular, everyday American democracy. Again, we should demand it of our UAW democracy, right?
Okay, before I get to the question of transparency, I want to go back to the special convention provision in the UAW Constitution, because Dan struck on a point that I thought was very important. I think that needs to be revised. If you notice in the special Article 8, if the International Executive Board wants to call a special convention, they can do that rather easily, right? They just get the majority members of the board and boom, we've got a special convention. But if the members want a special convention, that's a totally different situation, right? Much more difficult. You have to get, like in the current method, we have to get like 80 local unions that represent 80,000 members to sign this resolution, and it has time limits. And I mean, how difficult is that for a local union to call a special convention, or even a group of local unions to call a special convention? So we need to revise that language in the Constitution, make it easier for the local unions to call a special convention. That will have an accountability effect on the top leadership, because they know as they're making these decisions and engaging in these actions that the local union leadership and members are watching them. And if they veer off course, they'll call a special convention to rein them back in. So I think that's one of the things that we have to do there. But in terms of transparency, there are a lot of issues related to transparency that need to be implemented in the UAW. One is the International Executive Board meeting minutes. I mean, it takes like an act of Congress just to find out what these folks are talking about on the International Executive Board. So I'm proposing that we have, regular summaries, but better than that, I think that the membership of the union should have access to the verbatim minutes of International Executive Board meetings. We found out, of course, in the case of Gary Jones, because one of our members stepped up and decided to go through the whole process of trying to read the verbatim transcripts of the International Executive Board meeting. We found out that Gary Jones cast the deciding vote on his leave of absence after he had been indicted, on corruption charges, which is crazy. So I think we have to make those transcripts available. I think also that the Secretary Treasurer needs to revamp how he reports the financial business of the union. For instance, how many of us know how much a UAW convention costs? What does it cost the membership to hold a convention, or any regional conferences or conferences sponsored by any of the various departments in the UAW. We don't know those costs. So the Secretary Treasurer should be required to publish in the Solidarity magazine the total cost of all conferences on an annual basis with an accompanying itemized list of expenditures. And I say to you, why is this important? Because by publishing this information, it will reveal how much of our money is actually spent on conventions and conferences, and the membership could weigh in on whether these conferences and expenditures serve a purpose, or could we achieve the same purpose by going through other means, like, for instance, a Zoom meeting? Could that possibly happen? Now, you may also recall that conferences like the ones in UAW Region 5 held in Palm Springs over the years was used to hide the embezzlement of union funds. So the disclosure of the total cost and itemized expenditures of conferences, in my opinion, would help alert the membership of possible corruption surrounding these events and destroy a source of concealing corruption.